So here I am, Zara Vex, supposedly one of the galaxy's finest starship engineers, sitting in what used to be my pride and joy but now looks like someone fed it through a blender and served it back up as scrap metal soup. My ship, the Stellar Wrench, decided to have a catastrophic engine failure right above this lovely little rock of a planet. And by lovely, I mean it looks like the universe's garbage disposal had a bad day and threw up everywhere. The crash landing went about as well as you'd expect, which is to say, terribly. I managed to keep most of my limbs attached, which is more than I can say for my navigation console, my life support backup, and my emergency beacon. Oh, the emergency beacon. That little piece of supposedly indestructible technology that cost me 3 months' salary? Currently sparking like a defective firework, and about as useful as a chocolate teapot. I've been here for 6 days now, and let me tell you, the scenery isn't improving with time. Red dirt stretches as far as my 4 eyes can see, broken up by the occasional boulder that looks like it's plotting my demise. The twin suns beat down mercilessly, and the nights are cold enough to freeze my secondary respiratory system. Perfect vacation spot, really. I should write a review on galactictravel.com. 1 star. Would not recommend dying here. My food supplies consist of 3 nutrition bars that taste like cardboard soaked in despair, half a bottle of water that's starting to taste suspiciously metallic, and some emergency rations that expired before I even bought this ship. The previous owner, a Blorthan trader named Kex, assured me they were fine. Note to self, if I survive this, never trust a Blorthan about anything involving food safety. Or anything else, really. The most annoying part isn't even the imminent death. It's the fact that I'm going to die alone. Do you know how pathetic that is? Zara Vex, who once rewired an entire space station's power grid while it was under attack, is going to become alien jerky on some nameless rock because she was too cheap to buy a decent beacon. My family's going to be so disappointed. Well, they would be if they weren't already disappointed in me for dropping out of the Galactic Engineering Academy to become a freelance ship fixer. I've tried everything to get the beacon working. I've rerouted power from life support, which wasn't my brightest idea since breathing is generally considered important for survival. I've cannibalized parts from my coffee maker, my music player, and even my personal hygiene unit. Now I can't call for help. I can't make coffee. I can't listen to music, and I smell like a Gorthax armpit. This is what we call a downward spiral, folks. The worst part is the silence. Back home on Vexia Prime, there's always noise. Hovercraft humming, people arguing, the constant buzz of technology doing its thing. Here, there's nothing but wind howling through the wreckage and the occasional ping of cooling metal. It's driving me crazy. I've started talking to myself just to hear a voice, even if it's complaining about my situation. So here I sit, watching the sun set on what's probably going to be my last day. Tomorrow I'll be too weak to try any more repairs. I'll just lie here and wait for the inevitable. Zara Vex, alone at the end. My epitaph should read, she fixed everything except her own luck. At least that would be accurate. Just when I thought this day couldn't get any more ridiculous, a ship appears on the horizon. Not just any ship, mind you, but one of those boxy human cargo haulers that looks like someone strapped engines to a flying warehouse. It's approaching my position, which means either I'm hallucinating from dehydration, or someone actually picked up my pathetic distress signal before my beacon died completely. The ship lands with all the grace of a drunk Zilorian trying to parallel park. The pilot clearly values function over form, which I can respect. The cargo bay door opens with a mechanical wheeze that suggests this ship is held together by hope and spare parts, not unlike my own vessel, actually. Out steps a human. And honestly, he's not what I expected from a potential rescuer. He's medium height, medium build, wearing a jumpsuit that's seen better decades, and he's got this expression that suggests he'd rather be literally anywhere else. His hair is that sandy brown color that humans seem to specialize in, and he's carrying what appears to be a sandwich. A sandwich. This man is about to engage in first contact with an alien species, and his priority is lunch. But then I see the dog. Now, I've heard about human dogs. Every spacer has stories about these creatures that humans insist on dragging around the galaxy with them. Most species think it's bizarre that humans form emotional attachments to other animals, but humans are weird about a lot of things. They put flavored water in their mouths and call it brushing teeth. They wear different clothes every day. They name their ships and talk to them like they're alive. So having animal companions isn't the strangest thing about them. This particular dog is golden-colored, roughly the size of a small transport pod, and appears to be vibrating with excitement. The moment it sees me, it starts making those barking noises that human dogs are famous for. Loud, enthusiastic barks that echo off the wreckage of my ship. If I didn't know better, I'd think it was trying to communicate something urgent. The human, meanwhile, is looking at his sandwich with the kind of longing usually reserved for lost loves. "Buster, calm down," he says, not even looking in my direction. "It's probably just some debris. We'll check it out after I finish eating." The dog, apparently named Buster, is having none of this. It grabs the human's sleeve with its teeth and starts pulling him toward me. The human resists for all of 3 seconds before sighing dramatically and allowing himself to be dragged over. His sandwich gets dropped in the process, which seems to pain him more than the prospect of alien contact. "Fine, fine, we'll go look at whatever has your tail in a twist," the human mutters. Then he sees me, and his expression changes from mild annoyance to surprise. "Oh, well, that's not debris." I wave weakly from my position next to the wreckage. "Hello," I call out in standard Galactic. "I don't suppose you have any food? Or water? Or a working emergency beacon?" The human blinks a few times, processing this. "You speak standard?" Thank the void, I was dreading having to mime my way through first contact. He walks closer, hands visible and empty in the universal gesture of non-aggression. "I'm Jake Morrison, captain of the cargo hauler Steady Eddie. This is Buster." The dog wags its tail so hard its entire back end moves. "And you are?" "Zaravex, engineer and current castaway." I try to stand and immediately regret it as my legs remind me they haven't had proper nutrition in days. "I've been stranded here for almost a week. My beacon's dead, my food's gone, and I was starting to think I'd die alone on this rock." Jake nods sympathetically. "Yeah, this planet's not exactly a tourist destination. Good thing Buster insisted we investigate." I was ready to write off the signal as interference. He looks at his dog with an expression that's part affection, part exasperation. He's got better instincts than most of my crew. "Your crew?" I ask, looking around for other humans. "It's just me and Buster," Jake explains. "We run small cargo jobs around this sector. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps us in dog food." Buster barks as if agreeing with this assessment. The dog approaches me cautiously, head tilted in what I can only describe as a questioning expression. Despite my species' general wariness of animals, something about this creature seems different. Less threatening, more curious. It sniffs in my direction, then looks back at Jake as if asking permission. "He wants to say hello," Jake explains. "Buster's friendly, but I know some species aren't comfortable with animals. Your call." I consider this. On one hand, my evolutionary programming is screaming at me to be cautious around a creature with teeth and claws. On the other hand, this animal just saved my life by insisting its human investigate my distress signal. "I suppose a proper introduction is in order," I say finally. Buster approaches slowly, tail wagging, and gently nudges my hand with his nose. It's surprisingly soft and warm. For a moment I understand why humans find these creatures appealing. There's something calming about the contact, something that eases the loneliness I've been carrying. Well, Jake says, retrieving his dropped sandwich and examining it sadly, "Looks like we've got ourselves a rescue mission. Hope you don't mind sharing space with the dog. He's house-trained, mostly." Back aboard the Steady Eddie, I'm getting my first real look at human space culture, and honestly, it's weirder than I expected. The cargo hold has been converted into living quarters, but not just for Jake. There's a corner that's clearly designed for Buster, complete with a cushioned sleeping area, food and water bowls, and an impressive collection of what Jake calls toys. These are apparently objects that serve no functional purpose other than to be chewed on or chased around. This is fascinating, I say, examining a rubber ball that squeaks when pressed. Your species creates non-essential objects purely for your companion animal's entertainment? Jake shrugs, settling into his pilot's chair while Buster sprawls across a nearby couch that's obviously been claimed as dog territory. Buster's not just an animal. He's crew. Crew members get amenities. This is where my understanding of human logic breaks down completely. But he's not contributing to ship operations. He can't navigate, he can't repair systems, he can't even operate basic controls. Shows what you know, Jake says, scratching Buster behind the ears. Buster's got the best nose in 3 sectors. He can detect atmospheric leaks, electrical fires, and sketchy cargo before my sensors even register a problem. Plus, he's excellent at reading people. I've avoided more than one bad deal because Buster didn't like someone. As if to demonstrate, Buster gets up and brings me one of his toys, dropping it at my feet and looking at me expectantly. I stare at it, confused. What does he want me to do with this? He wants to play, Jake explains. It's a bonding activity. You throw it, he brings it back, everyone's happy. I pick up the toy, which is shaped like some kind of earth animal and covered in what appears to be synthetic fur. This seems inefficient. What's the functional purpose? Fun, Jake says simply. Remember fun? That thing you do when you're not working or worrying about survival? I throw the toy half-heartedly across the cargo hold. Buster bounds after it with enthusiasm that borders on the manic, retrieves it, and brings it back. His tail is wagging so hard it's creating a small breeze. Despite myself, I feel a small smile tugging at my mouth corners. He looks happy, I observe. That's because he is happy, Jake says. Dogs are simple that way. Food, shelter, companionship, and someone to play with. That's all they need for complete satisfaction. I throw the toy again, and this time I put some effort into it. Buster's joy is infectious, and I find myself genuinely curious about this game. On my world, we consider emotional attachment to animals a sign of weakness. It distracts from logical thinking. Yeah, well, logic's overrated, Jake says. Logic would have told me to ignore that distress signal and stick to my delivery schedule. Buster's instincts told me to investigate. Which one saved your life? He has a point, though I'm not ready to admit it out loud. Instead, I focus on the game. Buster brings the toy back, drops it, and sits in front of me with perfect posture, eyes locked on mine. There's something almost hypnotic about his attention. He's completely focused on this moment, this interaction, as if nothing else in the universe matters. Your species-packed bonding behavior is more complex than I initially assumed, I say, throwing the toy again. You form genuine emotional connections with other species. Not just other species, Jake corrects, other individuals. Buster's not just a dog to me. He's Buster. He's got his own personality, his own preferences, his own way of seeing the world. Same way you're not just an alien to me. You're Zara. This concept is taking some adjustment. On Vexia Prime, individuals are valued for their contributions to society, their skills, their logical capabilities. Personal relationships are based on mutual benefit and shared goals. The idea of caring about someone just because they exist is foreign to me. But then Buster does something that stops my philosophical pondering completely. Instead of bringing the toy back to me, he brings it to the ship's communication console and sits down, staring at it intently. Jake immediately becomes alert. What is it, boy? Jake asks, moving to check the console. Are you picking up something? Buster barks once, sharp and urgent. Jake's fingers fly over the controls, and suddenly the console is alive with activity. Well, I'll be damned. There's a ship approaching, running silent. Military configuration, unknown origin. He looks at Buster with genuine admiration. How did you know? The dog wags his tail as if this is perfectly normal behavior. I, meanwhile, am staring in amazement. He detected an approaching vessel before your sensors registered it. Buster's got abilities that go beyond anything I can build into this ship, Jake says, powering up defensive systems. He can sense things that don't register on instruments. Emotional states, hidden intentions, danger that's coming from directions we're not even looking. The approaching ship appears on our screens, and it's not friendly. Sleek, dark, bristling with weapons. Jake's expression goes grim. Scavengers. They probably detected your crash and came looking for salvage. Now they've found us. Buster moves to position himself between us and the viewport, ears forward, alert but not panicked. His confidence is oddly reassuring. This animal, who moments ago was playing with a toy, has transformed into something protective and focused. What do we do? I asked, my engineering mind already calculating our odds. We run, Jake says, firing up the engines. And we trust Buster to keep us one step ahead of trouble. As the ship lurches into motion, I realize I'm experiencing something new. For the first time in days, I don't feel alone. And surprisingly, it's not just the human making me feel that way. It's also the dog, who has somehow decided that protecting me is part of his job description. Maybe there's something to this pack bonding thing after all. The scavenger ship is faster than it looks, and Jake's attempts at evasive maneuvers are hampered by the fact that the steady Eddie handles like a cargo container with delusions of grandeur. We're running through a series of canyon formations on the planet's surface, using the terrain to break up targeting solutions, but our pursuers are persistent. These guys really want us dead, Jake mutters, throwing the ship into a banking turn that makes my stomach relocate to somewhere near my secondary heart. Must be carrying something valuable. Or they don't want witnesses, I point out, checking the sensor readings. Scavengers don't usually attack functioning ships unless they're trying to cover their tracks. Buster is pressed against the viewport, but he's not looking at the pursuing ship. His attention is focused on the canyon walls ahead, and he's making low whining sounds that suggest concern. Jake notices immediately. What is it, boy? What do you see? That's when the first energy bolt sears past our port side, close enough to make the hull plating sing. The scavenger ship has closed the gap, and their weapons are coming online. Jake throws us into another evasive pattern, but we're running out of maneuvering room. I've got an idea, I say, unfastening my safety harness. But I need to get to your engineering section. Are you insane? Jake asks, fighting to keep us level as another bolt scorches overhead. This isn't the time for repairs. It's exactly the time for repairs, I argue, already moving toward the rear of the ship. I can boost your engine output, maybe give us enough speed to outrun them. Buster suddenly barks, sharp and urgent, and Jake's eyes widen. Oh, that's not good. Buster only makes that sound when we're about to have company. What kind of company? I ask, but the answer comes in the form of 3 more scavenger ships emerging from concealment among the canyon walls. We're not being chased anymore. We're being herded. It's a trap, Jake says, stating the obvious with impressive calm. They've been waiting for us to commit to this route. The lead scavenger ship opens communications, and a voice that sounds like gravel being processed through a meat grinder comes through our speakers. Human vessel, you are carrying salvage that belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and we will make your deaths quick. Salvage? I ask, confused. What salvage? Jake looks at me with an expression that's part apology, part resignation. I think they mean you. Alien technology, rare materials, potentially valuable information. To them, you're just another piece of cargo. The reality of the situation hits me like a plasma bolt to the face. These scavengers aren't just after Jake's ship or some mysterious cargo. They're after me. I'm the valuable salvage they've been tracking. My crash landing wasn't just bad luck. It was an opportunity for them to collect something worth selling on the black market. Well, that's insulting, I say, surprising myself with how calm I sound. I'm not salvage. I'm a person. Try explaining that to pirates, Jake mutters, checking weapon systems that are clearly inadequate for a 4-on-1 fight. Any chance you can work miracles with our engines? Before I can answer, Buster starts barking again. But this time it's different. He's not warning us about danger, He's trying to tell us something specific. He runs to the cargo bay door, then back to us, then to the door again. He wants us to go somewhere, I realize. But where? Mount? Jake's eyes light up with understanding. The maintenance tunnels. Buster found them yesterday when he was exploring. They run through the canyon system, probably left over from some old mining operation. Maintenance tunnels? I ask, already liking this idea better than getting shot to pieces by pirates. Big enough for a person to crawl through, maybe big enough for Buster, Jake explains, bringing the ship around toward a section of canyon wall that looks identical to every other section. They lead to an abandoned facility about 2 kilometers from here. And you think we can reach them before the scavengers turn us into space dust? I think, Jake says, lining up for what looks like a suicide run at solid rock, that we don't have many other options. That's when Buster does something that makes me question everything I thought I knew about Earth animals. He positions himself at the ship's controls, not touching anything but somehow indicating a specific course correction. Jake follows his guidance without question, adjusting our approach vector by a few degrees. He can navigate? I ask, incredulous. He can sense things, Jake corrects. Electromagnetic fields, structural weaknesses, safe passages. Things that don't show up on sensors. The canyon wall rushes toward us, and I'm certain we're about to become a very colorful smear on the rocks. Then, at the last possible second, Jake fires the maneuvering thrusters, and we slip through what I now realize is a camouflaged opening. The scavenger ships flash past, unable to follow our trajectory. We're in a tunnel system that's definitely artificial, carved out of the rock with precision that suggests advanced engineering. Emergency lighting flickers to life as we pass, indicating that some systems are still functional. This is incredible, I breathe, staring at the tunnel walls. This whole planet isn't uninhabited. It's abandoned. And now it's our temporary home, Jake says, bringing the ship to a landing in what appears to be a massive underground hangar. At least until we figure out how to deal with our new friends. Buster jumps down from his position and trots over to what looks like a control panel. He sits next to it and barks once, tail wagging. Jake follows his lead and examines the panel. Life support, artificial gravity, even some basic fabrication equipment, Jake reports. This place is still functional. But for how long? I ask, watching the scavenger ships on our sensors as they circle the canyon system above us. They know we're down here somewhere. Eventually they'll find the entrance. Then we'd better make sure we're not here when they do, Jake says. Time to see if that engineering expertise of yours extends to ancient alien technology. I look around the facility, taking in the scope of the challenge ahead. Abandoned alien technology, hostile scavengers, and a human dog team that somehow makes decisions based on animal instincts. This is either going to be the most impressive engineering challenge of my career, or the last thing I ever work on. Either way, at least I'm not facing it alone. The abandoned facility is a marvel of engineering, and I'm having the time of my life figuring out how it works. While Jake keeps watch for scavengers, I've been diving into the control systems with the enthusiasm of a kid in a candy store. The technology is old but sophisticated, clearly designed by a species that understood energy manipulation at a level that makes my own people look like we're still banging rocks together. This is incredible, I mutter, rerouting power through what appears to be a quantum resonance chamber. Whoever built this place was working with principles that won't be discovered by most species for another 1,000 years. That's great, Jake calls from his position at the monitoring station. But can you make it do something useful? Like, say, getting us out of here alive? I'm working on it, I reply, connecting my portable diagnostic unit to the facility's main computer. The good news is that this place has a transportation system. The bad news is that it's been offline for about 3 centuries. Buster, meanwhile, has appointed himself as my assistant. He's been following me around the facility, occasionally barking at specific systems or components. At first, I thought he was just being a typical animal, but I'm starting to realize he's actually helping. Every time he barks at something, it turns out to be a critical component or a hidden access panel. Jake, I call out, I don't suppose you know why your dog seems to understand alien technology better than I do? Buster's always been good at finding things, Jake replies, but there's something in his tone that suggests he's not telling me everything. Dogs have instincts that go beyond what we can measure. I'm about to ask for clarification when the facility's alarm system suddenly activates. Red lights flash, and an automated voice begins speaking in a language that sounds like musical mathematics. I don't understand the words, but the tone is universally recognizable as danger approaching. They found us, Jake reports, watching the scavenger ships on his scanner. 4 vessels, moving in a search pattern. They'll locate the entrance within the hour. Then we need to move faster, I say, diving back into the control systems. The transportation network connects to multiple exit points across the planet. If I can get it operational, we can pop up anywhere within a 1,000-kilometer radius. But as I work, I realize we have a bigger problem. The facility's power core is failing, and the energy requirements for the transportation system are enormous. We might get one shot at this, and if I miscalculate, we could end up scattered across the planet in very small pieces. Jake, I say, I need you to trust me on this. And more importantly, I need you to trust Buster. What do you mean? The targeting system for the transportation network is incredibly complex. It requires real-time calculations based on electromagnetic field fluctuations, gravitational anomalies, and about a dozen other variables that change constantly. My best calculations give us maybe a 60% chance of arriving in one piece. Jake's expression goes from concerned to alarmed. And what does Buster have to do with this? He's been guiding us through this whole crisis, I point out. He detected the scavengers before your sensors did. He found the entrance to this place. And he's been identifying critical systems with perfect accuracy. I think he can sense the safest path through the transportation network. You want to bet our lives on dog instincts? Before I can answer, the facility shakes as the scavengers begin their assault on the entrance. Rock dust falls from the ceiling, and several of the older systems start sparking ominously. I want to bet our lives on the same instincts that have kept us alive this long, I correct. Besides, do you have a better idea? Jake looks at Buster, who is sitting calmly next to what I now recognize as the transportation control interface. The dog's tail is wagging, but his eyes are focused and alert. He looks like he's ready for whatever comes next. All right, Jake says finally. But if we end up as quantum particles scattered across 3 star systems, I'm holding you responsible. Fair enough, I say, powering up the transportation system. Buster, this is your show. Where do we go? The dog approaches the control interface, and to my complete amazement, begins interacting with it. Not randomly, but with clear purpose. He presses specific panels in sequence, and the system responds by displaying a 3-dimensional map of the planet. Exit points light up across the surface, and Buster studies them with the intensity of a seasoned navigator. How is he doing that? I whisper to Jake. I told you he's got abilities that go beyond normal animal senses, Jake replies. I've never seen him interface with technology before, but nothing about this situation is normal. The facility shakes again, more violently this time. The scavengers are making progress on the entrance, and time is running out. Buster barks once, sharp and decisive, and selects an exit point that's roughly 300 kilometers from our current position. That's near the polar region, I observe, checking the coordinates. It's cold, isolated, and there's nothing there but ice and rock. Exactly, Jake says, understanding immediately. It's the last place they'll look for us. The transportation system powers up with a sound like singing crystals, and I feel the familiar tingle of quantum field manipulation. The facility around us begins to fade as we're converted into energy patterns and prepared for transmission. Hold on, I say, grabbing Jake's hand and reaching out to touch Buster's head. This is either going to be the most impressive escape in galactic history, or the most spectacular failure. Either way, Jake says, squeezing my hand, at least we're facing it together. The last thing I see before the transportation beam activates is Buster's tail wagging, as if he's absolutely certain everything is going to work out fine. And somehow that confidence is more reassuring than all my engineering calculations combined. We dissolve into light and possibility, trusting our lives to the instincts of an Earth dog who somehow understands the universe better than either of us ever could. The transportation system deposits us in a snowbank at the edge of a frozen wasteland, which is considerably better than being scattered across multiple dimensions. I take a moment to appreciate the fact that all my limbs are still attached and in their proper locations before assessing our situation. Well, Jake says, brushing snow off his jumpsuit, that was either the most terrifying or most exhilarating experience of my life. I'm not sure which. Buster bounds through the snow with the enthusiasm of someone who's never met a climate he didn't like. He's barking joyfully, chasing snowflakes, and generally acting like we just arrived at the best vacation destination in the galaxy. His attitude is infectious, and I find myself smiling despite our precarious situation. We're alive, I say, stating the obvious but feeling like it needs to be acknowledged. Against all odds, we're actually alive. Thanks to you, Jake says, and to Buster. That navigation work was incredible. I've never seen anything like it. I look at the dog, who has stopped playing in the snow and is now sitting attentively, watching both of us. There's intelligence in those eyes, a depth of understanding that goes beyond simple animal instincts. He's not just a dog, is he? Jake's expression becomes thoughtful. I found Buster as a puppy on a research station that was studying interspecies communication. The scientists there were working on theories about quantum consciousness, the idea that some forms of life can perceive reality at levels we can't measure. When the station was decommissioned, Buster needed a home. And you just happened to adopt a potentially psychic dog? I adopted a friend, Jake corrects. Everything else was just bonus features. Over the next several hours, we worked together to establish a temporary shelter and figure out our next move. The scavengers will eventually realize we've escaped, but the transportation system's quantum signature makes us virtually impossible to track. We're safe, at least for the moment. As we work, I find myself observing the dynamic between Jake and Buster with new understanding. It's not a master-pet relationship. It's a genuine partnership. They communicate through looks, gestures, and an intuitive understanding that goes beyond words. Jake trusts Buster's judgment completely, and Buster protects Jake with unwavering loyalty. I've been thinking, I say as we sit around a small heating unit, sharing emergency rations and watching the planet's twin suns set over the frozen landscape. About what you said earlier, about pack bonding. Yeah? Jake encourages. On my world, we're taught that emotional attachments are weaknesses, that logical thinking is superior to intuitive responses, but everything that's happened over the past few days contradicts that philosophy. Buster comes over and rests his head on my lap, looking up at me with those expressive eyes. I scratch behind his ears, marveling at how natural the gesture feels now. Logic would have told me to ignore the strange noises in the canyon. I continue. Logic would have said that trusting an animal's instincts was foolish. Logic would have calculated the odds of survival and concluded that we were all going to die. But we didn't die, Jake points out. No, we didn't. Because sometimes the heart knows things that the mind can't calculate. Sometimes trust is more valuable than logic. Sometimes the best decisions come from caring about someone else more than you care about your own safety. Jake smiles, and it's the first genuinely warm expression I've seen from him. Sounds like you're starting to understand pack dynamics. I'm starting to understand a lot of things, I admit, including the fact that I don't want to go back to my old life. Working alone, trusting no one, keeping everyone at arm's length. It's not really living, it's just surviving. Well, Jake says, glancing at Buster, who wags his tail as if approving of the conversation, the steady Eddie could use a good engineer. The pay's not great, but the benefits include regular meals, interesting destinations, and the best co-pilot in the galaxy. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a place in the pack, Jake corrects, if you want it. I look around at our makeshift shelter, at the alien landscape stretching endlessly in all directions, at the human and dog who risked their lives to save someone they'd never met. 6 months ago, I would have calculated the pros and cons, weighed the logical benefits, and made a decision based on purely rational factors. Yes, I say without hesitation. I want it. Buster barks once, sharp and joyful, and Jake's grin widens. Excellent. Welcome to the crew, Zaravex. 3 weeks later, we're back in space aboard the Steady Eddie, which now sports several improvements thanks to my engineering expertise. The cargo hold has been reconfigured to accommodate 3 crew members. The engine efficiency has been boosted by 30%, and the sensor array has been upgraded to detect threats at twice the previous range. But the most significant change isn't technological. It's social. We've become a family, bound together by shared experiences and mutual trust. Jake pilots the ship with his usual laid-back competence. I handle maintenance and repairs with enthusiasm I never knew I possessed, and Buster continues to amaze us with his ability to sense danger, detect opportunities, and navigate social situations that would challenge most diplomatic corps. You know, I say, watching Buster play with a new toy while Jake plots our next cargo run, I used to think I was doomed to die alone. Turns out I was wrong about a lot of things. Like what? Jake asks, scratching Buster behind the ears. Like thinking that independence meant isolation. Like believing that strength meant not needing anyone. Like assuming that the most important decisions should be made with logic instead of love. Buster brings his toy over to me, and I throw it across the cargo hold. He bounds after it with the same enthusiasm he showed that first day, when he insisted that Jake investigate my distress signal. That simple act of canine curiosity saved my life, but more than that, it saved my soul. I was wrong about dying alone, I continue, watching our 4-legged navigator retrieve his toy. I was never alone. I just hadn't found my pack yet. Jake nods, understanding completely. Pack bonds aren't about biology or species. They're about choice. About deciding that someone else's well-being is as important as your own. And sometimes I add, scratching Buster behind the ears as he brings the toy back, the best choices are made by someone with 4 legs and a tail. Buster wags his tail enthusiastically, as if he knows we're talking about him. He probably does. Then he does something I've never seen him do before. He carefully places his toy in my hands and then sits down, looking from me to Jake and back again, his tail continuing to wag. I think Jake says softly, he's saying thank you. For what? Mutt. For completing the pack. For giving him a bigger family to protect. I look down at the simple rubber ball in my hands, then at the dog who somehow managed to save 3 lives by simply being himself, and finally at Jake, who taught me that the strongest bonds are forged not through logic or necessity, but through the simple act of caring. No, I say, my voice thick with emotion I no longer try to hide. Thank you, both of you, for showing me what it means to belong. As if on cue, the ship's communication system chimes with an incoming transmission. Jake checks the display and grins. Looks like we've got our first job as a crew of 3. Cargo run to the Meridian system. What do you say, Zara? Ready for your first official mission with the pack? I stand up, Buster's toy still in my hand, and look out at the stars streaming past our viewport. Somewhere out there are 1,000 adventures waiting. 1,000 chances to prove that trust is stronger than fear. That love is more powerful than logic, and that the best families are the ones you choose for yourself. Ready, I say, and I mean it with every fiber of my being. Buster barks once, sharp and joyful, and Jake begins plotting our course to the stars. The Steady Eddie carries us forward into the unknown, but for the first time in my life I'm not afraid of what we might find.